absolutely shocked because Rand and I have talked about this a lot on the podcast. And defensive tackle is definitely a need, and they did take Derek Harmon, as you pointed out. I had heard from several other teams that there were injury concerns that Derek might slip a little bit. The other thing is if Kenneth Grant had been there out of Michigan, who went much earlier than we expected, Rand, that would have been a landing spot as well, perhaps, next to Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton, their former second-round pick. But with Shedeur staring in the face and with dire needs, and I can't stress that enough, the word dire, you have currently Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson as your quarterbacks, and we'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. Shedeur Sanders made too much sense not to happen. And again, we've said this for a while, if his name's Shedeur Smith, maybe this is a different conversation, but here we are, and now the question becomes, how long is Shedeur going to be waiting to hear his name called?
And I'm shocked.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand because I have been hearing that there was a defensive tackle in play. Like Ryan said, you thought more of the Kenneth Grant variety, and I think I would have understood that a little bit better. But like Ryan said, Derek Harmon comes in, there are some injury concerns with his hips and with his back. And talking to some teams, there's a second contract worries if he's going to be there or if he's going to be a second contract guy because of a back injury and hip injuries. And when you think about the nature of his position and the grind and the weight that he has to hold on, you're going to need your hips and you're going to need your back. And sitting here at 21 with the quarterbacks you have on your roster, and even if you sign Aaron Rodgers, that's not the long-term solution. And you have the opportunity to get a quarterback that I think there's belief in that could be your long-term solution. The quarterback, I don't understand why you pass it.
Let me ask you this. So, Andrew Berry, we understand why the Browns are looking towards next year. Can the Steelers do the same thing with whether it's Aaron Rodgers or even a Kirk Cousins? Could that be in the cards for them?
Possibly. But, however, if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, unlike the Cleveland Browns, are you equipped with draft capital to make those?
You're not holding Jacksonville's one.
And let's be honest here. Pittsburgh has traditionally won double-digit games per year, whether they exit the playoffs early or not. They're traditionally picking in the 20s.
Right.
So are they going to be able to do that to get up to get a quarterback?
Never been bad enough to be serious about the quarterback position. And here one is staring you in the eyes at 21. You don't have to have one of those failures of a season to potentially find your franchise guy. They let him go there at 21. The slide continues for Shedeur. I will point out we have 2 running backs drafted before we have our second quarterback drafted here in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft. Goodness gracious, me oh my. So let's take a look at what's in front of us now here, Ryan. If we're going to find a landing spot for Shedeur, maybe those phones do get hot. What makes sense in these next 25 picks?
All right, let's play a game, Rand. 33, Cleveland Browns.
No.
34, New York Giants.
Possible.
And then 40, we have the New Orleans Saints. We heard some Jackson Dart conversation potentially in the first round. So maybe those are the 2 teams, the Giants and the Saints, perhaps, that might be in the business for Shedeur.
Think about this if you're the Giants, and you were possibly considering Abdul or Shedeur at 3. And think about if you trade back into the bottom of 1 and you walk out of this draft with both Abdul Carter and Shedeur.
That feels like a win.
What a night you've had.
It feels like you've checked some big boxes there. We'll see if that's what New York does. But as it currently stands, Shedeur Sanders still on the board. Thank you, gentlemen. The Giants traded for Eli Manning on draft night. Another deal done. And again for a quarterback out of Ole Miss. Jackson Dart, the new QB in NY, as the Giants move back into the first round, trading that 25th pick via the Texans. And you see the haul there, a second and a third this year, as well as a third next year, as the Giants identify and select Jackson Dart. And with the dart thrown, a balloon does pop. It is Jackson Dart and not Shedeur Sanders at 25. We've already done the Shedeur conversation, so let's focus here on Dart, that marriage between Daboll and maybe his quarterback of the future, maybe New York's quarterback of the future. A crowded room. How do you take every piece of information we're being given right now?
Yeah, so Joe says maybe, but if you're trading back into the first round and your owner has made it clear, what was the term?
Running out of patience, Mr.
So
Morrow.
things have to change quickly, and then you trade up for a developmental quarterback, and that's exactly what Jackson Dart is, and they have Russ and Jameis in that quarterback room. How much patience is the owner going to have if Jackson isn't on the field by Halloween?
I think that's an excellent question, and I'll just challenge you one different. How are you going to trot these guys out on game day, right? Because you are allowed to dress 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So are you going to take your first-round pick and make him your 3rd emergency quarterback? Or will you get cute and make him the 2 and Jameis the emergency 3rd in case something bad really happens? But what it does is it puts the Giants in a situation and the coach, Brian Daboll, in a situation where at some point we're going to have to see this guy that you believed in for us to trade up and give a
thread and needle there to give this kid enough time to develop and learn behind a couple of veterans, but also get the on-field reps that will justify this selection and maybe insulate a head coach and a general manager with a couple more years. A look at Brian Daboll, who was also tasked with developing quarterbacks of great success in the past. We'll see if he can do so here with Dart. Rand, I asked you the question in the green room of who you jumping the line here to go get Jackson Dart? Why not maybe play your luck and see early second if you can move up into those late 30s, early 40s to go get your guy? What was your thinking there?
My thinking there was that they felt like they needed to get above New Orleans. New Orleans is sitting at pick 40, and they have multiple third-round picks and multiple fourth-round picks that would allow them to get in that range of what I was thinking, 26 to 32. And so understanding and knowing that the Saints front office was out in droves at Jackson Dart's pro day. They brought him in for a visit. I think they might even done a private workout with him. There was a lot of love for him coming out of New Orleans, so the Giants felt like they had to move up above them and to ensure that they could get their guy.
It is three-dimensional chess, and we are lucky to have a chess master with us here on the desk on HQ. A final thought here, a thought here.
Checkers.
Maybe on where the board will lie for Shedeur Sanders. Are we looking towards now, obviously, this dwindling list of teams that are trying to draft quarterbacks? Is the Saints what makes the obvious sense?
Well, we'll see, because they're pick at 40. I think they like Jackson Dart more than Shedeur. They went in a different direction at pick 9. And things are going to open up a little bit. Tyler Shuck has been someone mentioned as a potential top 50 pick, so there could be other names coming into the conversation. The Steelers don't have a second-round pick, so they may have to give future consideration if they're going to try to come back in and get Shedeur. So there's a lot of moving parts, and you're running out of chairs in terms of the musical chairs analogy.
Hey, stay put right here on CBS Sports HQ. We've got a full first-round analysis coming your way in just a bit on a
Mọi người ở đây là mình sẽ dùng hạt vòng màu sắc để tạo thành chiếc vòng nha. Đầu tiên là mình dùng màu xanh nhé.
Toàn các bạn làm cái này thì biết cái danh sách đăng ký thì bằng lái xe A1 có bạn gửi lên nhưng mà không biết là thế nào.
Chả biết có nên thi theo trường không?
Đi ngoài chứ.
Rồi sau ta về ta hỏi bố mẹ ta xem.
Giờ có bằng cái nặng lên nó chơi thoải mái.
Mày còn lâu đủ tụi bay.
Nhưng mà cô gửi đấy thì đăng ký thì chắc chắn đăng ký.
Ốp điện thoại ta để chỗ kia đâu rồi. Chiều đem đi cho Thủy Dương không thấy rồi. Hôm nay đây ta đến kiểm tra lịch sử đây, hôm nay đến tổ ta kiểm tra ta trả thuộc cái gì đây?
Thì cô lại chịu trận.
Về chép đi còn ký.
chép vẫn rất như bình thường mà tí phải chép xong rồi 1 giờ về rồi về chép xong rồi mẹ thi đừng có đưa ra anh kia làm nữa.
Cái gì á?
Bố bảo thi đừng có ra anh kia làm nữa.
Hôm qua ta cũng bảo kiểu ta nghe thấy mẹ ta bảo con Huyền đi học thôi sao?
Nói rồi giờ làm gì đấy con học không ấy không cho thi, không cho điểm, không cho thi, tự nhiên là thi không mấy nữa, thi thì không nên làm như này nữa.
Hôm qua mẹ ta cũng bảo ta nghỉ làm mà. Hôm qua ta bảo với con em ta là bây giờ ta chỉ ước ta có thời gian học thôi. Mẹ ta nghe thấy. Mẹ ta bảo thế học thì nghỉ làm đi.
Nhưng mà ta không học, ta cũng không học cái gì đâu mà học nhỉ.
Mẹ ta bảo ta thế.
Thế bảo thi đấy để chép mấy của cô ấy chứ.
Đúng rồi.
Có gì đâu mà tự nhiên không có đi làm nữa. Bố có nuôi được không?
Không nuôi được đẻ làm cái gì?
Có cho được mấy đồng mà cứ...
Mới dám bảo thế không?
Ờ.
Thế không phải là cho được mấy đồng mà là bố mẹ chỉ có trách nhiệm nuôi mình ăn học thôi. Không có trách nhiệm cho mình tiền để mình tiêu cái này tiêu cái kia. Tại bây giờ bọn mình cũng đang ở cái trạng thái là quen có tiền rồi, không có tiền không chịu được, không đàn đúng được với bạn bè thì thành ra là bọn mình không chịu được thôi. Chứ ngày trước làm gì có tiền. Nhìn bạn bè nó có mình không có thì mình nhìn đâm ra là mình bảo ôi sao nhà mình thế này thế kia nhỉ thôi. Xong mình lại kêu với bố mẹ. Lúc bố mẹ nói trước mặt mình thế này thì chửi mình kinh lắm. Không có tiền thế này thế kia chửi kinh lắm. Xong rồi nghĩ lại vào tại nhà không có con mình phải thiệt thòi, nghĩ là bố mẹ lại sót.